Pinball circuit activated.
All right, let's do the front. I've taken it off the sawhorses because I'm going to use the masking tape down here, and then just fill in this with epoxy. This deep gouge I'm going to fill with epoxy as well, and this deep gouge also with epoxy. So I've got 80 grit sandpaper here, and we're going to go ahead and just sand this off. Now, for any of you that are wondering, I don't generally wear a dust mask when I do this. I probably should, but if it gets too dusty, I'll put it on. But this is post 1980 paint, so I don't have to worry about lead. So let's get sanding. Interestingly, it looks like there's been a bad repair here because there's a big run right here. So somebody painted back in here at some point. So here we go. So hopefully, as you can see, I'm not really focused on real fine grit. I'm just trying to remove the bulk of the paint so I can see what I have to work with here. And I'm just gonna check and make sure that I've gotten all this delamination sorted out, which it looks like I pretty much have. So, okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my Dremel, and I'm just gonna take out these areas of leftover glue from the previous glue. Okay, so at this point what I've done is taken out all of this old wood, just trying to get back to a decent surface to get the epoxy to bond to. I think that's probably okay. All right, so now what we're gonna do is just take our masking tape. It's gonna be a pretty big repair. So I'm gonna go all the way down the edge here. Actually, I need to do this corner too, so let's just get that in there as well. So we'll just do this, go all the way down the edge. Okay, now this is going to be my main area of concern back through here, so I'm going to try and get this all done. And I do need to fill these two holes because those were the extra holes that they drilled for whatever reason, because they didn't want to fix the original carriage bolt, and that hole is fine. So I thought initially maybe they had blown this hole out or it was not holding or something, but it's fine. So I don't know why they did this, but I'm gonna fill these. These I'll fill with just probably some wood putty. I could take a dowel and put it through there, but it's not. I may put some of that quick wood epoxy putty in there and see how that goes. But let's mix up our epoxy. Mix it up. Once again, just looking for that kind of milky, it almost looks like, like you ever seen the videos where they make candy canes? That kind of white looking stuff, that's what you get when you get this stuff mixed up. All right, so let's just take this and shove it in there. And this is going to be a pretty big repair, so I'll kind of work it around and get it on the area initially. And we'll kind of level it out. I think this has a lot of hardener in it, which is why it's a little bit wider than what it normally is. That's okay. So I'm just going to level this out. And put some in here. So, as a coincidence, we have the Jaws pinball being revealed yesterday and today. I've seen the leaked video. I am actually a possible buyer for Jaws. However, I was not impressed enough with the leaked video that I've seen to say, yes, I'm going to get it or not yet. I'm going to wait and see a lot of gameplay. And the reality is, I would probably be a premium buyer anyway. And it sounds like the premiums aren't even going to be available until June. Now, we do have, because we're here in Texas, we do have sometimes an option to purchase floor games at TPF. And our local distributor here kind of handles that with Stern. And so sometimes you can get games that are floor games that way. That's how I got my Foo Fighters, it was a floor game last year. And that's not a bad deal. You can get, like, usually the games have between 500 and 800 plays on them, sometimes 1,000 if you get one that's in a popular location on the floor. But you get basically $500 off, and like in this case, you might get a little bit of early access-ish. I'm gonna need to mix up some more epoxy here real quick. So I don't know. I'm curious to see. I mean, I've been very impressed. I own a Jurassic Park, and I own a Godzilla. So I am not opposed at all to Keith Elwin games. I like them a lot. I think he's probably the best designer working today, modern designer-wise. But Jaws is sort of a mediocre theme for me. It's fine. I mean, I like the movie. I don't have like a shrine to Jaws in my house or anything. Foo Fighters was more of a immediate purchase for me because I like the band and I like their music. And then when I saw the animations and the fact that it was like a Saturday morning cartoon, that kind of sold it for me. And I do really like that game. If I had a criticism of Foo Fighters, it would be that it shoots too good. In a home use environment. Now, I've only reached, I've actually technically never reached the wizard mode because the one time I finished that game was before they actually had the wizard mode coded in. So, I've technically not reached the wizard mode, but I will say that compared to my other games, like for example Jurassic Park, that I really like, I have never even sniffed the wizard mode. Like, I think I've cleared the T-Rex paddock once. And then I have like Lord of the Rings, and on the Lord of the Rings, I've not gotten close to Valinor. So I kind of like, I guess the point is, I kind of like games where I feel like in a home use environment, I'm gonna have a challenge that I can work through. And I feel like Foo Fighters, while I really do love the game, and I think it's a good game, I think that I will probably hit that wizard mode in the next few months. I could probably hit it in a week or two if I really just sat down and really committed to playing it a lot. And I kind of want something that's a little bit more, I don't know, difficult? Is that the right word? So anyhow, I haven't yet decided what I'm going to do with my Foo Fighters. I do really like it. I kind of want to see if this is truly like the end of the code or not. There's a divot there I'm going to try and fill. I originally thought that Jaws would be an automatic purchase for me at TPF, and I would get rid of one other modern Stern, But that's a hard choice because my 3 modern Sterns I have in my collection are Godzilla, Jurassic Park, and Foo Fighters, and I like all 3 of them. And I'm not going to get rid of any of my other games because I feel like they're not as replaceable as the modern Sterns. There's a void right there I need to fill. I don't know that I have enough goo left to do that. Let's see. So, anyhow, that is my unsolicited take on Jaws that you didn't ask for. And I think I said when I started this channel that I wasn't going to do game reviews. And I'm not really. But you can take that for what it's worth. Today is Wednesday, January 3rd or 4th or something. And the gameplay reveal and the streams and stuff is the end of the week, so we'll see what it looks like. Okay, we're done with that. Now we just have to let that set up, and we can then pull the tape and then sand that back eventually. I'm gonna let that cure for a few days. Next step will be I'll put it back on the sawhorses and do this other side, which has one big, huge void right here that we'll have to fill again with filler. And this side's not as bad, so it shouldn't take as long. All right, YouTubes, we're back in the workshop. It is Saturday, January the 6th, I think. And we're gonna have a full disclosure moment. So, as I told you when I started the channel, I'm gonna show all the good and the bad and the ugly. So we had a little bit of ugly. The epoxy didn't cure right. So my epoxy fills were all just sort of not cured, not hard enough to sand, and they were all just turning to jelly. So I just spent the last hour taking them all out with a combination of a sander and a chisel. So we're now going to refill all of those areas with something else. And I'm either going to use Bondo fiberglass on certain areas, probably areas that are going to be under stress, and then the other areas I'm just going to use regular Bondo and go from there. So we're going to do some Bondo fiberglass on this corner and that corner, and I think that corner too. I think there's 3 corners that have chips, and the rest of it I'm just going to do regular Bondo on. So let's get going. All right, so this is what Bondo glass looks like. It's gross. It comes out like, I don't know, it's like this gelatinous goo. And not super pleasant to work with, but does dry super hard. And sand's okay. So given that we had the epoxy debacle, this is what we got. So same kind of process. I put a decent amount of hardener in this because I do not want to have the same problem happen again. And you just take it, and it's just really thick and gooey, as you can see. It's like spaghetti sauce or something. And I'm just going to smear it on here. And then get it kind of leveled out as best I can. Now I'm going to come over the top of this with regular Bondo at some point. But for now, this is really just going to go on the edges here. So just smear it on there, and it's not going to be pretty. But you're going to come back and fix it anyhow and sand it back. So just going to get it all in here. And then try and level it. The thing is, this stuff moves as like one big mass, so it's really hard to spread and get level. You just have to kind of accept that it's going to look like crap at the beginning and then sand it back. And I'm going to let that set and see. And this is I mean, I probably went overkill on how much Bondo I'm putting down, but I really wanted to just build it up so I can then sand it back. I'm gonna put a little bit right here. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this or not, probably not. Let me zoom out. Yeah, you can't see that. Oops, wrong way. Okay. So you still may not be able to see this, but there's a little spot here that's gonna be where there's a leg protector and it's gonna get stressed. So I'm just gonna do that there. Do a similar thing here. So, I mean, this is just gonna go in the corners. And the rest of it I'm gonna do with regular Bondo. The epoxy wood filler didn't do that great either, so there you go. I'm gonna move the camera. It's our rather major problem child. So we're just gonna smear this stuff in there. And let it kind of do what it's gonna do. And again, you just gotta get it as good as you can. It's not gonna be pretty. And build it up. Do a little bit of overhang just to kind of keep it there. All right, so the Bondo fiberglass is working better. So maybe I will revise my opinion on it. I am going to wear a dust mask on this one because this is fiberglass stuff, so you don't want this in your lungs. This is 80 grit sandpaper. Okay, so you can see it sands pretty well. There's a few little pinholes, and I'm going to go over that with regular Bondo or my glaze, either way, and fill those in. And there's a couple of areas like right here that I'll go over with regular Bondo. I really just wanted to get these edges done, and I might need to put a little bit more right here. There's a couple of spots I'm going to put some extra fiberglass in, like this corner here, just sort of make that corner a little bit better. This gouge here, there's a gouge in the front that didn't quite get filled, and I'll build this corner out more as well. So there's a little bit more to do, but I think that's way better than the result I was getting with the epoxy, and it cures faster. I mean, this I let cure for about an hour. Supposedly it's sandable within 30 minutes, but I gave it an hour. So this might put me kind of back on track for possibly priming tomorrow. We'll see if I can get all of this done tonight and maybe even get it glazed tonight and let it cure overnight and then sand it all back tomorrow. Maybe I can shoot primer tomorrow. We'll see. But I'm pretty happy with that considering where we started the morning with a disaster. So, you know, my buddy Ken says we learn by doing. So you make mistakes and you take a deep breath and you fix it and you move on with the restoration. Happens to everybody. So don't get discouraged if you make a mistake. Don't get discouraged if you have a problem like that. Just fix it. Choose a different route and press forward. So I'm going to keep going. It is now Sunday, and as you can see, I have taken the operation into the driveway. Number one, because it's a nice day outside, but number two, this is a very dusty process, and I want to keep as much of the dust out of my garage as I can. What I've done since we were together last is I got all of the issue with epoxy fixed. I got all that removed, and I used fiberglass Bondo to fix all the corners and everything. So that's all done. And I have skim coated this cabinet, and I'm in the process of finishing the fiberglass Bondo repairs, and I'm going to skim coat the head, and then we're going to sand all this back and get it ready for primer. This is a very tedious process. It's probably my least favorite process in the entire restoration, but it's super important. So I am guilty of trying to rush ahead and getting tempted to say that's good enough. It's really important to do this step correctly, and it will pay off in your quality of your finish down the road. So we're going to be sanding this back, and then we'll look at it and see if it needs more. You can see I didn't skim up underneath the side rails because no one cares what those look like. And yeah, we might be able to prime today. It might be tomorrow. We'll see how far we get. Okay, so what I've done is I kind of debulked it with 80 grit just to get to where I could start to see the grain through the filler. And then I went over it all with 120 for the final kind of sand down. I'm going to leave it at 120 because I'm going to prime over this, and I've had way too many delamination nightmares when I'm stenciling in the past. So I really like to leave 120 here at the base so that my primer has something really good to stick to. And when I sand the primer back, I use 120 on that as well, so that my base coat has something good to stick to. I know a lot of people go to 220 on this. That's fine. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying I've had issues with delamination in the past, and so I like to leave a little more tooth in the wood for the paint to really get in there and bond to. So I'm going to get going on the other side. Well, here's where I ended up. Clearly, I did not get the cabinet primed. It was one of those where I just kept finding things, and this is pretty typical when you're messing with a cabinet that's this old and has this much damage. Things just keep popping up, which is why some people don't mess with old cabinets. But a new cabinet is going to run you about $1,000. So I did want to kind of show you guys what I found on the front here, and this is something I'm gonna have to fix, and I'm glad I found it now versus later. So you look down here, and if I bring it in, you can see that there's a little area right here that I noticed was just a little bubbled, and I thought, oh, well, that's weird. I better just chip that out so I can fix it real quick. Well, if you put a thing under there, you'll see that this entire area is delaminated, and I didn't realize it until today. So I'm gonna fix that, because that would have been a huge problem had I not found it. So silver lining there is that I'll be able to fix that, and I won't have to, because that's exactly, see how that, I don't know if you can see it or not, that will cause a problem in your finish, because you'll be able to see that 1000% once you get it painted. So I'm going to fix that. The rest of it, though, you can see how much of the filler is left after I'm done kind of sanding it back. I'll sand a little bit more of this out eventually, but that's after 120 grit. So I'm going to get on with fixing the delaminated area there. I will finish up these corners and edges on the head, and maybe I will prime it tomorrow. So let's see what we're dealing with this delamination area here. it's pretty deep. So I'm a little concerned. I'm not sure. Well, maybe I can get enough glue in there, because I thought I was going to have to cut it and take it all the way down to about here, but I think if I use a toothpick and some wood glue, maybe I can get enough down there to clamp it up. Let's find out. Just gonna put a toothpick in here, a couple of them. See how far down that goes. So we can get this one to do the same. There we go. Okay. So I'm just gonna put a whole bunch of glue down there. And hang on a second. All right, so let's just put a bunch of glue down in there. I'm just gonna kind of fill up this void here with glue. I'm gonna get some more. And just shove glue down in here best as I can, and get this all to glue up, hopefully. Take this out real quick. Spread that over that way. So this is kind of the frustrating part of restoring an old cabinet, because you run into these things all the time. And like I said, I'm really glad I found this before I put this thing all together, because it would have been a mess otherwise. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to clamp that up. All right, so this is just an old wooden ball guide that I'm going to use to just get more pressure on this thing. And we're going to go on either side, I think. And let's get this guy to clamp up correctly. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Get some good glue squeeze there. Okay, so that is now done. And I'll let that glue set up probably overnight, and I'll pull those off tomorrow and sand that back, and we should be good. Hopefully, we'll see.